Українська армія успішно наступає на півдні України та на Донбасі. Перемога здобувається кров'ю наших воїнів. Просто пам'ятайте, зараз кожної миті мирні Київ, Львів, Хмельницький, Черкаси, Чернівці починаються в Бахмуті, Херсоні, Криму. Вже вдруге енергетична бізнес-спільнота оголошує благодійний аукціон. Це інвестиція в наше майбутнє. Всі кошти від продажу лотів будуть передані Збройним силам України для зміцнення бойової міці нашої армії. Кошти від попереднього аукціону вже працюють на перемогу. Допомагайте Збройним силам України. З нами Бог, з нами генерал Валерій Залужний та наші титани українське військо. Дякуємо всім, хто допомагає. Ми сильні, коли ми разом.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Energy Security Forum, which is the final forum of the year for the Energy Club, the business community in Ukraine that brings together leading companies in the Ukrainian energy market and creates opportunities for communication between its stakeholders in a cycle of more than 90 events that the Energy Club has held in 2022. Due to the complicated situation with the energy supply in Ukraine, we're holding the Energy Security Forum 2022 without online broadcasting, but the forum recording will be available on YouTube. It is important to mention the forum partners. It's the Ukrainian Energy Exchange, NADRA, GeoInvest LLC, Phoenix Contact LLC, Government of Germany, because the event is supported by the German government as part of the project promoting energy efficiency and the implementation of the EU Energy Efficiency Directive in Ukraine, which is being implemented by the German government company GIZ. We also invite you to invest in the future. The Ukrainian Energy Exchange, the Association of Gas Traders of Ukraine, the All Ukrainian Energy Assembly, and the Energy Club business community announced a charity auction to be held on the 24th of November 2022 on the Ukrainian Energy Exchange. All funds from this sale of lots will be transferred to the needs of the armed forces of Ukraine. And for more information on registration and participation in the auction, please visit a special page developed in 2 languages, in Ukrainian and English. It is charity.uex.com.ua. My name is Andriy Kulykov, and it is indeed a great honor for me to moderate this forum. Without any further ado, I'd like to proceed to the first in the series of discussions. It's called Security and Stability of the Ukrainian Energy Sector During the War and its Post-War Recovery. And the first person to speak is Valerii Bezus, head of the State Agency on Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving of Ukraine, one of the people who plays a pivotal role in the development and preservation of the energy market and energy sector in our country. Mr. Bezus, please proceed.
Thank you, Andriy, and thanks to Energy Club for conducting this forum, and to all colleagues who find the time to share thoughts about the future of the energy sector of Ukraine. Of course, it's hard to move on with the discussion during the actual terroristic attacks on our energy system. Nevertheless, we need to address the challenges not only for withstanding the Russian terrorism today, but to counter Russian efforts to push us back, both on tactical and strategical levels. We need to have a clear view on what energy mixes we need in Ukraine for our sustainable development and how to keep up with the energy transition process. We need a clear view on how our energy distribution system should be developed to accommodate the development of energy mixes. All those issues should be addressed as soon as possible, not to wait, even not to wait till our victory in this war, because we need to be prepared for further development. We must follow our obligations in the Euro integration process and take part of the responsibility for climate change mitigation as a huge and general challenge for the whole humanity. To do this, we need to be more specific and detailed with our goals and plans and move on with the execution of those, especially concerning important and specific matters such as, say, technical policies and regulations. We cannot provide sound development of renewables, let's say, without a sound basement of technical policies and regulations. And we know well that even before the war, we had a lot of issues accumulated in Ukraine, especially concerning technical policies and regulations. We have a lot of issues to discuss, and we could have a lot of answers to find to have our homework done well, to be prepared not only for the current challenges, but the further development, because without the further development, there are not so much to fight for us as Ukrainians. So welcome to the discussions. I'm sure that we will find during this forum a lot of interesting approaches and interesting decisions to follow on and to develop it in our general work together. So welcome to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bezus. I'm pretty sure that after this introduction, the discussion is going to be businesslike and very important and profound. Due to different circumstances to which in particular pointed Mr. Bezus, not all the announced participants are now with us. We, of course, know about problems with energy, the internet, and so on across Ukraine. So the order of speakers may vary. However, we retain hope that the announced speakers will join us. We do not set a very strict time limit, considering the importance of the issues that we are going to discuss. I just remind you that research has proven that 7 or 8 minutes is the best to retain the audience's attention and to be able to explain your views. And I give the floor to Yuriy Bondarenko. He's the Vice President of the National Committee of the International Council on Large Electric Power Systems, CIGRE-Ukraine, and Mr. Bondarenko has taken very active part in the Energy Club discussions during the year, and not only this, his scope of work goes far beyond our discussions. Mr. Bondarenko, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Energy Club, very important topic. And my information, do you see monitor, yeah?
Yes, we see energy transition and war in Ukraine. At least I see it.
Yes. And a lot of people ask me, what we do in this moment. We wait when war is finished, or we very fast work with our power system, substation, and the thermal power plant, and all our energy objects. And the next important position, we support energy transition in the world. A lot of documents we have now from our colleagues from Europe and the world, and Paris Agreement, Green Deal, and NCO, and international standard, international committee. In United Kingdom has document and program, United States of America, CIGRE, a lot of brochures, and we know it is very important if we understand what is our way. We know in a world go to 5D. We know decarbonization, deregulation, decentralization, digitalization, democratization, very important principles. And unfortunately, we are not in G20. Maybe next step, we will stay in G20. But principle for quality infrastructure investment, we know 5 principles, and we know is very important what is financial way, what is technical policy, and we must understand what we do with our power system. I can say we have in our history before 21st February, this is our in history a very long way, 100 years, when we had built it very biggest and best systems in Europe power system. And we had before war 56 gigawatt capacity. We had thermal power plant, we have nuclear power plant, and you know 13 gigawatt, it is our base nuclear power plant. And last 2 years we had renewable energy 8.7 gigawatt. I remember in 1990 we had in before our independent history Ukraine, we had 320 terawatt hour electricity generation. Before war 150, and you know half our capacity we have now before 21st February. Only 24 gigawatt it is capacity for consumption. It is 21st February. Unfortunately, after we have this picture, Russia is destroying Ukrainian power system for more than 250 days. It is I think it is terrorism and genocide on our country. You can see this picture. I was in this substation, and you can see transformer, current transformer, and switch grid, and SF6, cubicle protection, control system, photovoltaic, and after 21st February, we disconnected from Russia, and we have our board European countries, European NCO power system, and but these 250 days, many thermal power plants are occupied. For example, Zaporizhia nuclear, Kakhovskaya hydropower plant are occupied, and people from Sayano-Shushenskaya gas, our colleagues now are working in Kakhovka. It is not engineering ethic for CIGRE, for engineers of energy power. A lot of 330 and 110 kilovolt substations are damaged. it is situation in our power system today. Question: new power system. What is new power system of Ukraine should be built on, and now we start or after the war is finished? I think we have a lot of tasks, and we must go forward with this conception. And first of all, I think we have new program. 100 years we built our power system after Goal program, 100 years. But now we must have new program, new electrification program conception for Ukraine, and minimizing of gas usage. And we understand, together with Europe, with international electrical standard, with innovation technologies, smart grid, renewable energy, battery storage, pump storage, small modular nuclear reactors, hydrogen power to X. Very important. It is new technologies, but when we start? Protection of intellectual property. Very important. We have a lot of scientists, engineers, and we must protect our idea, our intellectual property. Development of Ukrainian power industry. I understand today we start not only Ukrenergo distribution company, generation, we must work together with industry, with Turboatom, Zaporizhzhia Transformator. A lot of companies already support our issues, training and of new generation of electrical engineers using new electrotechnical vocabulary. New standard, electropedia. We wait new generation in our companies. Important if we start together with institutes, university. But now question, what is situation in our power system? I can say we need now and we need later. First of all is customer. In our new power system, I think, is customer. Customer is a priority. Energy for people. A customer will be a member of a new electricity market. Important who is customer and his position, not only disconnected in our today after our distribution net. And we understand for houses, for villages, for city need mobile generators, inverters, power banks, heating devices, and we must support city heating and water supply utilities. Later, maybe smart house city, controlled load consumer, new voltage classes, dispatching, demand response, hill pumps, power to X, thermal system. It is next step after today problems. Second, distribution network. We understand what is situation in distribution network. We lost transformers, circuit breakers. We need reclosers and cables, wires, and the situation very difficult in Kherson, Mykolaiv, Chernihiv, Kharkiv. And very important if cooperation, all energy people on companies will support this distribution company. Later, smart grid, DSO and DSO function, we maybe must change. Dispatching, connection of distributed energy, solar, wind, new class, voltage class, 20 kV, and next step. Next tradition, we listen Ukrenergo, but not only power system of Ukraine important for us, and but important what is our position in generation and transmission. We need to repair more than 40% maybe of substation and high voltage lines, and replace about 100 power transformers. Construct new high voltage lines towards NSOE, maybe 6 gigawatt next future, maybe, but now 200, 300 megawatt. Before we had export, now maybe import. Reconfigure excitation system of generators on our power plants. Approximately 50 generator we must test, make test and reconfiguration excitation system. Install new automation system. We have VAMs, but we next system protect. And continue construction of pump storage plants, Dniester, Kanyev, Tashlik, important if we will have regulation capacity. And a lot of topic for hydrogen technology. Maybe our thermal power plant we can reconstruct using hydrogen, but it is future. And support important Ukrainian energy industry. We wait from Zaporozhye, for example, factory, 20, 30 transformers, 330 kV, not only from foreign companies, from Zaporozhye. My conclusion, very important in this situation, a quick association of all organizations, the Cabinet of Minister of Ukraine, Minister of Energy, National Commission of State Regulation of Energy and Public Utilities, DSO, Ukrenergo, Industry, Ukrainian, Russian, we wait this shtab. Construction and installation companies wait this task, and we are ready support our companies. And important if we together very start work with this energy objects, power plant, we wait. But a lot of work, I know, Ukrenergo, DTEK, and other companies make and made important if we together go to this problem. It is necessary to return the development of technical policy and new scenarios of the industry with the involvement on foreign and Ukrainian experts to the Ministry of Energy. You can see this document. This is strategy 2006, 2008, and next. A lot of good position. Our proposal were in our energy programs these years. Develop energy recovery programs for each city and village in accordance with the strategies this year. Innovation in investment should be implemented not at the expense of tariffs, but at the expense of investments. Long money, important what is long money in this situation, not only tariff. We need actions, not words. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bondarenko, for this concise presentation of not only the problems that we face, but also the steps that we need to take in order to restore us to the capacity. And now I pass the floor to Konrad Swirski, who is the professor of, just a moment.
Warsaw University of Technology.
Yeah. Professor of the Warsaw University of Technology and president of Transition Technologies. Mr. Swirski's scientific yet very practical approach has always been an inspiration for me, just like his interest and knowledge of the position of the situation in Ukraine. Please go ahead.
Good morning, dear colleague. I desperately trying to share the screen with my presentation, but I have the problem, I hope you can see my slides, Yes.
Yes, we can now.
Okay, so let's go to the topic now. First of all, I would like really congratulate Ukraine and Ukrainian army for the liberation of the town of Kherson. And now I would like to convince my Ukrainian colleagues that we know that war in Ukraine is not only war of Ukrainian people, but it's war for all Europe, which is especially recognized in Poland, you know. So we are sure that the war will end and it will be the victory of Ukraine. And I really hope that the end of the war, we can see, you know, first sign, you know, that after first quarter of the next year, no, we may go back, you know, to kind of the peaceful living. But of course, in front of us, there is very difficult task of rebuilding Ukrainian economy and Ukrainian energy sector, you know. Thank you, Yuri, for some kind quick update. You know, I have exactly the same, you know, some conclusions. You know, first of all, no, we see heavy damages during the recent attacks, you know, and there is the core question, you know, whether the Ukraine energy sector after the war, it will be exporter or importer of the energy. Probably at the beginning, you know, there is necessity of providing some additional backup from Western countries to the Ukraine, you know, and the cost of rebuilding the energy sector at the moment is enormous. You know, I remember we had the meeting in the Energy Club, and previously there was some numbers regarding 20 billions, but now it's probably something between 50 and 100 billions of euro if we calculate the whole cost of necessary investment. You know, and in my opinion, you know, there's such kind of the three phases. You know, so three actions which need to be taken. You know, first of all, it's something immediate. You know, it's reacting for the current attacks, and later two phases in the short term and the long term. But the most important is to find the money for the investment. Obviously, it cannot be found, you know, only in Ukraine, because, you know, after the war, there is necessary or big support of the EU countries by the European or US grants. I talked, you know, recently about some advisors of Polish President Andrzej Duda. Maybe we can expect some kind of the initiative from the Polish side in the next, you know, couples of days or couples of weeks, you know, and I hope it will be some kind of the proposal of the special funds for the restoration of the energy sector in Ukraine. You know, today we have announcement of the Polish Prime Minister, which he proposed to confiscate, you know, the Russian properties or Russian, you know, some assets, you know, in the Western Europe to cover some damages in Ukraine, but also with some other additional EU grants, you know, maybe there will be some chances, you know, to really see the money for reconstruction. I agree with this first, you know, immediate actions. You know, we cannot talk about, you know, at the moment about the long-term plans about decarbonization or smart grids. In the moment, you know, when there's so many people in Ukraine is disconnected from the grid, you know, and have the problems with the heat and this power supply to their homes, you know. So our immediate actions, you know, I'm talking about the Europe and Poland, you know, is to react for the needs, you know, and prepare the urgent delivery of this equipment, especially transformers and this equipment for the switchyards, you know. In fact, you know, maybe the more deeper communication between ministries or some kind of the pressure on the Polish side, you know, it's necessary from Ukrainian side, you know, because in the some kind of the Polish manufacturers as well in the Ukrainian manufacturers, there need to be some kind of the let's say queue for deliveries. It means that those factories will need to start to build this new equipment, especially transformers, you know, because what we see, you know, this would be the most urgent need, you know. The second issue is this cross-border lines, you know, after the switching Ukraine from connection to Russia to the ENSO, now we know that the new connection lines from the west are necessary. No, and one critical item is this line Chmielnicki-Rzeszów, this 750 old line, you know, which according to the Polish Ministry of Climate, maybe completed on Polish side up to the end of 22. I'm not sure whether this date, will be really sustained, probably it will happen, a little bit late, There is some work on the Polish side, but unfortunately, I don't think they are so fast, as they should be, I always, wrote that we had to do that, from the beginning as quickly as we can, but, no, probably within the months rather, this part, will be ready from the Polish side, This is absolutely must, and something which need to be given to Ukraine immediately, because at the first stage, probably as you mentioned, there's also will be the need to deliver the power to Ukraine from Western countries. In the second phase, this really is the modernization of the transmission distribution lines, switchyards, and also some power plants modernization. I think included also this classical thermal power plants, because what will be the most important, it will be to put Ukraine back to power. It means to put the generation level, which will be appropriate to the consumption of the energy in Ukraine to the pure war level, but because at the moment, with this fragmentary data, I can see that, the consumption is reduced by at least 50%, but after the war, immediately the Ukraine will go back to the rapid economic growth, or the rebuilding the economy, and the need for power will be enormous. So Ukraine may be back, to the in this optimistic scenario, back to this peak consumption of 24 gigawatts, but we don't know, what will be the generation status, in the Ukraine, how many power plants will be back to operation, and it will be, this ultimate goals, in the next, couple of years, And finally, you can see, the possibility of fitting and modernization of the Ukraine energy sector according to the EU goals, and fully integration with the European Union. But I think, it will take really a decade, I agree, this is not an urgent action. We have the same situation in Poland, modernization of the Polish energy sector will take a decade, In Ukraine, sometimes it will be even easier, with the higher ratio of the zero emission generators, and definitely investment in the renewable energy and the global modernization of the nuclear sector after 30s, will be critical. And in this next decade, I think the Ukraine may be back as a major energy supplier to European Union. And what is important, major energy supplier with the zero emission, energy, which may be also very profitable for Poland, and may help the Poland in the Polish efforts towards decarbonization. Finally, I would like, talking, less words, more action, I would like the help of organization, which is very similar to Energy Club, which is called Polish Chamber of Power Industry Environmental Protection. This is the, let's say, commercial organization, which is, covers, all commercial organization in industry, and no, we already make some kind of the survey and list of available partners on the Polish side, and we may provide some kind of the cooperation which may be, coordinated by the Energy Club from the Ukrainian side. In Poland, generally, there is some activity of the Polish Ministry of Climate, and Ministry of State. Those ministries will, at the moment, officially by the government, need to coordinate the program of cooperation with Ukraine. There was several meetings with the Polish companies. There is list of the companies who would like to participate in the new program of the rebuilding the Ukraine economy. I'm very sorry, but in my opinion, it's too slow action, you know. So it will be maybe good, you know, to make the pressure both from the Polish and Ukraine side, from the commercial organization, you know, to make this integration of the industry, you know, faster and prepare the program of the rebuilding the power system faster. And I can offer this, you know, personally from my side. You know, I act as a secretary of this Polish chamber, and I can contact, you know, if you have any need on the Polish side, you know, especially with the commercial companies, you know, I can facilitate the contacts of the Ukrainian enterprises and Ukrainian companies with the Polish companies, and let's make something together and be prepared, you know, for the program of the rapid modernization of the Ukraine. Thank you very much for your attention. You know, anything, you know, you have my contacts. You can write me directly.
Thank you very much, Professor. Speaking of assets, the friendship, advice, and assessment from such people as you, especially in Poland, are one of our main assets in this juxtaposition with the aggression. Thank you once again, and please pass on our respect to all the Poles who stand with Ukraine. Dear ladies and gentlemen, please, those who join us, please rename yourself with your name and surname, not just an iPhone and name, so that I know whom to invite to the microphone or not. Meanwhile, we are going to hear from Oleksiy Orzhel, who in the very important years of 2019-2020 has been the Minister of Energy and Environmental Protection of Ukraine. Please, Mr. Orzhel.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah. Well, it's a great pleasure to be here and to share the visions of the situation and the future of our Ukrainian energy sector and energy system. And thank you for Energy Club for this opportunity. And I also, supporting the previous speakers, want to say that as I see, we have some periods of war, or let's say phase of war. The ongoing phase, it's the situation during this terrorist attack of Russians. They are trying to destroy our energy system right now. And in such situation, we are facing the problems with the energy supply. And what is more important, and thank you for our heroes in energy sector and that they are bringing back electricity supply. But what is more important, we understand that Russian terrorists will continue these attacks, and they will try to do this in the most uncomfortable and the most problematic moments for the Ukrainian energy system operation during the cold weather. And it will be really a challenge to keep the system stable and to keep the electricity supply to the crucial and critical infrastructure like heating supply and water supply, because we understand in case of freezing this system and in case the pumps will not work during the really cold weather conditions, it will bring the freezing of the system, and it will cause even greater problems in not only energy sphere, but also in other infrastructure companies. And only after the this winter period, we can make some repairings and bring back heating and water to Ukrainians. It is the first challenge, and we have to deal with this. And I believe that there are two maybe points of working within Ukraine and with our friends and partners. It's bringing some mobile decisions and mobile generators to this critical infrastructure and protecting our transformation system, protecting our distribution system. We had a lot of discussions during this already long period of war. Frankly, it's rather long period, and to bring some maybe concrete construction and other decisions for protecting the transformation substations and other critical infrastructure points of our energy system and other systems. The second phase and the second period, I believe, is the question of a future Ukrainian economy. We all believe in victory, but there are two really important points. The first point, it's what is the situation with our GDP. Right now, we have the 37 decrease of Ukrainian GDP due to the war. The second thing, what will be the configuration of the load of Ukraine? What will be the existing mix of economy? What will be the share of metallurgy and other energy-intensive consumers in Ukrainian economy? Right now, we can't say it. And the second really important point, what will be the situation with the terrorist Russia? In case there will be no, long-term peace agreement, and we will stay in a cold situation, we have to develop our energy system in a logic of any moment, the possibility of attack, of this terrorist attack in any moment. In this case, all our future energy has to be decentralized and has to be somehow protected from these attacks. And in case of the situation that we are losing some central points of generation or central points of transmission lines, there is an opportunity for the Ukrainian consumers to get the electricity. And it's especially in the regions of East and in central Ukraine. So this is also, a little bit other logic of development. Maybe I can bring such example like Israel. They have this a little bit simple situation. They have the terrorists nearby, and they are living under this pressure for the long period of time. So this is the second sphere. And the third period of development, I believe this is a new Ukrainian energy system, a new Ukrainian energy strategy, and bringing all these important issues that previous colleagues already mentioned. It's like that we, as Ukraine, can be a source of CO2-free energy for Europe, and we can be a big supplier of electricity and other kinds of energy sources like hydrogen to Europe. It's first thing. The second thing, it's the future logic of Ukraine economy. And in this case, we also have to bring a newer and more fashion energy sector to the final consumer, to bring new decisions, to be more effective and be more energy effective. What I'm trying to explain that in case, and this problem we faced already in the previous time, that historically Ukraine has a big centralized energy system, and losing the consumers at the end of the system, it causes greater losses in the grids. So if I can explain you more simply, in case we have some, let's say, village, and village is supplied by 0.4 kV grid, distribution grid, and in case there is in this village there are no inhabitants, only some people are staying there, old people, and they are using electricity, and we have to bring the electricity to these consumers. The losses in this distribution line is huge, and it is unreasonable to operate this distribution sector in the system, and it's the great problem right now. And due to the war, it can be even greater because there are a lot of regions in Ukraine that are connected to the centralized system, and a lot of people are living, and we can't be 100% sure that they will return to their places. And we have to realize that this new energy system and new logic of development has to be changed. And we have to think over it and to bring the generation sources closer, much closer to consumer, and once more to be more energy efficiency. And yes, it's also one more important issue that was mentioned, that there are a lot of friends and a lot of partners who are already seeing the perspective of Ukrainian energy development and rebuilding and reconstruction, but there is no, points of entering to this process. We for sure are right now under the terrorist attacks, but still we have some points for working, and that's why there is maybe an opportunity to develop some alternative sources of energy and alternative, maybe small sectors of the distribution system already in somewhere more safe places, and to already to start something to work. And I believe this is the question maybe to our governmental authorities, even more for the municipal authorities. They are even more interested than the centralized our government, because they're facing these real problems. And I hope this also can be a point where there can be already an active work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orzhel. We cannot be sure 100% of many things, but I'm 100% sure that if we listen and hear your advice, this makes our task easier. Thank you for the profound knowledge which you share. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we have exhausted our list of announced speakers, and since none of the people who were also on the list were able to join us, we will be rounding up this session, but I would like to hear from Mr. Bezus, who started the discussion today, some final remarks, whether the discussion went along the lines that you suggested, and what we have to discuss further.
Thank you, and many thanks to all the colleagues who have joined our discussion. Of course, it's hard to discuss those matters because, from one hand, it's very hard to openly discuss actual state of our energy system. It should be discussed behind the closed door, and it's been discussing, as we know, behind the closed door, all those scenarios and all those plans to react on these terrorist attacks. From another side, it's a bit hard to discuss the further development of our energy systems after the war because of some psychological reasons, it's hard to discuss during the actual and active phase of the war. Nevertheless, I'm sure that we have to be very professional and very optimistically proactive with discussing, with approaching these matters, especially when it comes to those enormous scope of work that we can do behind the front lines, you know, both military front line and energy sector front line. There is enormous scope of work, especially when it comes to, let's say, technical regulations and technical policies. I think with this circle, we know well the state of the matter, especially when we discuss technical regulations, not even with such an established sphere like electricity, both generational and both distributional system. We know the challenges to accommodate the renewables by our grid, but we can mention and we can take a look on such, let's say, exotic matters like hydrogen, and even not hydrogen. Let's mention waste to energy matters. We almost have no technical regulations in such fields, in such spheres of energy sector. So we need to discuss it. I'm sure of it, and we need to plan the exact steps and the exact execution step on how to be prepared for the further development of our energy system. So again, I thank all of colleagues who joins this discussion, and hopefully we'll continue with this discussion, and we will put clear task for all of us to do our work behind the front lines. So thanks again. Hope to see you at the next panels.
Of course, but it turns out that this panel has not been finished yet, because we have Matteo Governatori joining us, a really expected and anticipated appearance. Mr. Governatori is the International Relations Officer at the Directorate-General for Energy at the European Commission. And if you are prepared to speak, and I presume that you are, otherwise you wouldn't be joining us, Mr. Governatori, we'd like to hear from you on the topic of the first panel discussion, which is called Security and Stability of the Ukrainian Energy Sector During the War and its Post-War Recovery, Post-War Development of Ukrainian Energy Sector. Please, Mr. Governatori, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. And I would stress from the beginning that we all realize it is a pretty challenging and peculiar time, given the latest wave of attacks to the Ukrainian critical energy infrastructure. So I really feel compelled to recall how the EU condemns all these attacks, whereby it is quite apparent that Russia is deliberately targeting the critical energy infrastructure to a scale that was not done before. Even it was done even in the first month of the war, but not, I would say, to that extent, because of the numbers we hear for the share of infrastructure which has been damaged, both in generation, in distribution, in transmission, is around 40%. Some people say half. So it is really appalling and dramatic. We had to take note of the fact that Ukraine, who had started recently to export electricity to the EU, given the fact that the production had remained relatively resilient before these attacks, while the demand had dropped, these exports obviously had to be decreased, and this was communicated to us timely by the Ukrainian side. And now the challenge is on the one hand, to help Ukraine on potential need of electricity, of importing electricity from the EU, leveraging on the synchronization of the grids, which occurred in record speed in March. But there is also an even more immediate concern, which I don't know whether I'm repeating things which have been said earlier in the panel, but clearly now there is a huge collective effort at international level for supplying and providing Ukraine with all the equipment Ukraine needs in order to ensure the resilience of its energy, in particular in this case, electricity infrastructure, because we hear already that there are millions of Ukrainians which are with no access to electricity, to heating, to water. This is absolutely appalling, and all our efforts are put in place in order to make sure that this situation can be mitigated as much as possible. You might know that on a practical level, there is a civil protection mechanism in the EU, which has been mobilized since the beginning of the war, which is managed by colleagues in DG ECHO, and who's working jointly with the Energy Community Secretariat to essentially act, coordinate, and work in close contact with the Ukrainian authorities, which provide a list of the equipment which are needed. I understand it's now generators, now it's auto transformers, particularly the 750 kilovolt type. So this list is basically, this list of needs is basically processed by the civil protection mechanism of the EU and the Energy Community Secretariat, and then in a way dispatched to the member states authorities and ministries so that the supplies as they are available can be collected and then provided to Ukraine. Under the impulse of the Commissioner, Kadri Simpson, also a fund has been created with the Energy Community Secretariat acting as fiduciary, is the Ukraine Energy Support Fund. This fund essentially complements what I explained before, which is centered on in-kind donations, because it is a fund whereby international entities, third countries, member states can provide financial donations in case they don't have in-kind equipment to supply. And then these funds obviously can be used to purchase the equipment and which is then provided to Ukraine. So that's another component of this assistance system. Now it reached around $25 million donations, and we try to advertise as much as we can so that others donate, both inside and outside of the European Union, because it is opened also to third countries. Recently, Commissioner Simpson traveled to Ukraine on the 1st of May. And in that occasion, obviously, the main talk was about how to step up even further this assistance for needed equipment, for the resilience of the electricity sector. And under the initiative of Minister Galushchenko, an international advisory energy group has been created, to which Commissioner participated. The US, Japan, UK were also part of it. So the idea there, I would say, is to make the effort, which so far was concentrated at the EU level with the mechanisms I mentioned, to make it now at the really global international level, and making sure that there is coordination across all the different donors, so that we are all on the same page on the donations which Ukraine needs. And there is also a forum which has been created, a G7+ coordination forum under the initiative of the United States, which is now meeting regularly. And then again, the idea is to reach out to the global communities, for also third countries out of the EU, reaching out to their industry, their company, to try to see what equipments are even secondhand are immediately available, which can be provided to Ukraine, because we understand now the challenge, of course, is that the production and the market for components like generators, for example, is pretty tight. So the production delays would be substantial, so probably too long for Ukraine to be able to have these products as they need them. So the idea is to see what is available already there, even something which is not perfectly compatible, but perhaps with some repairs with some adaptation, the Ukrainian technical people can actually make it immediately work in their system. So that's basically the effort now. So now both the member states, which have been further mobilized by the commissioner, and the third countries via this G7 advisory group, which has been created, are reaching out to their industry to see what's already available, what's immediately available, and what can be delivered quickly. And let me add that the EU system under the civil protection can ensure the logistics, meaning whenever an equipment comes to a European port, then our own system of logistics can take care of the transportation from possible port in the EU to Ukraine by using the transport hubs for EU civil protection, which has been created at the border with Ukraine from Poland, from Slovakia, from Romania, for example. So this, in a nutshell, basically the system which is now. This is the system which has now been mobilized, and we will continue together with all the colleagues in the Commission who are directly involved in this effort. We will continue to mobilize such a system. And I would only perhaps add just one word about gas, although gas seems to be less of a priority compared to electricity in this very moment. And recall that just a couple of elements, just to underline how we are not only integrating Ukraine in the internal gas market of the EU, but also helping in case of need also from the gas point of view. And as you probably know, the EU is setting up a voluntary platform aimed at centralizing the purchases of gas, also LNG, also green hydrogen, to leverage on the EU market power. And this platform will be open also to Ukraine and Moldova. And Ukraine and Moldova are already involved in the regional articulation of these platforms for Central and Eastern Europe and Southeastern Europe. So that is one concrete element. And the second one is that we try to be as ready as possible to a possible disruption of the gas transit, of the transit of Russian gas via Ukraine, which we must recall has not yet happened. There was a 30% reduction a month ago, but so far the transit is, for the rest, is continuing, but we have to be prepared for its possible disruption in this very volatile situation. And also ready to help Ukraine with the reverse flows, but reverse flows are already, they have already been activated and agreed, also with the facilitation of the Commission, particularly from Slovakia, but also from Hungary, partly from Poland. They are already available and can be used by Ukraine in order to import from in the direction west to east gas from the EU via these routes. And since I don't want to take too much time, since we are, I understand, drawing to a close of this panel, I don't want to use further my time. And in case you might have a couple of questions, I may be able to comment as well. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Governatori. Although we may have different times, what you said and what you do proves that we are on the same wave. Thank you for joining us. If there are any questions to Mr. Governatori, I'm ready to allow them, but not at the moment. We appreciate that you were and are with us. Some other speakers could not join because they take part in other meetings, some of them governmental, some of them unofficial, and we fully understand that they have to do this in view of the problems that we have outlined and in view of the need for solutions of which we have also spoken. Before I pronounce this session closed, I want to remind that there is a plan to hold an auction in support of the armed forces of Ukraine, and it's being organized by the Ukrainian Energy Exchange, the Association of Gas Traders of Ukraine, the All Ukrainian Energy Assembly, and the Energy Club business community. It will be held on the 24th of November 2022 on the Ukrainian Energy Exchange, and all the funds from the sale of lots will be transferred to the needs of the armed forces of Ukraine. 4 exclusive lots are offered for the auction. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I think that the first discussion during our Energy Security Forum was honest and still optimistic, because it painted the true picture, and when there's a true picture, you can find true ways to solve the problems. When the picture is distorted, then we are at a loss. Thank you, everybody, and we will resume our work at noon Kyiv time. And the issue there will be cybersecurity in the energy sector. What are the challenges facing critical infrastructure facilities in Ukraine? Thank you. Take care.
Digitalization is changing the way we live and work. The question of how people will live in the future is one that we all decide together. On all continents, in all countries of the world. These challenges are great opportunities for all of us. The global society of the future needs our know-how, creativity, and passion. Needs us to pave the way for sustainable development in all important sectors. Together, we can give the right answers to the questions of today and tomorrow. Together, we will pave the way to the all-electric society, and thus make a significant contribution to a sustainable future for the global society. Empowering the all-electric society.
Українська армія успішно наступає на півдні України та на Донбасі. Перемога здобувається кров'ю наших воїнів. Просто пам'ятайте, зараз кожної миті мирні Київ, Львів, Хмельницький, Черкаси, Чернівці починаються в Бахмуті, Херсоні, Криму. Вже вдруге енергетична бізнес-спільнота оголошує благодійний аукціон. Це інвестиція в наше майбутнє. Всі кошти від продажу лотів будуть передані Збройним силам України для зміцнення бойової міці нашої армії. Кошти від попереднього аукціону вже працюють на перемогу. Допомагайте Збройним силам України. З нами Бог, з нами генерал Валерій Залужний та наші титани українське військо. Дякуємо всім, хто допомагає. Ми сильні, коли ми разом.